welcome to Smart Impressions. I'm Rachel, your host, and we are connecting and driving business results one business relationship at a time. Today's show is going to be really exciting because no doubt in the introduction of technology, people are losing where do they prioritize? Where do they actually focus on the team? Do they focus on the technology? And it can be a really muddy, confusing kind of area. So the show title today is Driving Equality Across Leadership for the Future of Work. And I have just a fabulous expert with me here in the showroom. Welcome to the show, Eleni Kitra, who has tons of experience, been in the region for 13 years, and she really goes from a multi-level type of maturity level when it comes to businesses to solve problems and get leaders in the right direction to prioritize. So thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for inviting me. Very nice.
It's great to have you. So here we go. We're going to go right into it. We got 15 minutes on the clock, and I know everyone's busy these days, but what are some of the issues that you're finding with the leaders that you're talking to? Are they able to easily prioritize where their focus should be, or are they really stuck and confused?
Well, I don't think they're really stuck, but they're trying to get out of the zone they were before. So they have a lot of other things to talk about. There's a priority for the bottom line. There's a priority of innovation and being up to speed and be relevant to the end user, the consumer. And at the same time, they need to be seen that they can actually create sustainable growth. And in this effort, sometimes the people factor is being not properly addressed. And this is where sometimes they need to find a way to bring technology and people together in the best way to move forward.
And I love this because I think, I appreciate no one's stuck. I'm sure people are losing sleep, though. I'm sure they're going, what do I do? And there's part of people that are scared they're going to lose their jobs, right? So you got this like fear factor that exists in the organization. Is AI going to replace me? Do I have a future potential? Because I think that for a human, any human is inspiring, So how do you really, help that unity of both of those priorities within an organization for businesses?
You always start from where the baseline is. What is the real problem for a company to go forward? What they're addressing, and then you see what are the key components you need to have into the recipe to solve for that. And of course, it's everything about the process, the way you structure the company, how innovation can help to create efficiencies and minimize the cost and have a very green bottom line. And at the same time, you need to think which are the people you need to have in the team. So you should not be continue having legacy roles or people, but create this kind of new model where technology and people need to work together. But this means that you may need new types of individuals, of experts, of people to work for you and believe in the vision. This is where I think it's the challenge, because the people who exist already in a corporation, they think about the role and if they're going to have a future into that. But the point is, they don't see sometimes how they can actually elevate themselves and change themselves in a way to be more relatable to the company as well. So It has to be top down and bottoms up, restructure and reimagining how the organization used to work.
Well, I love that your focus is leadership, because wouldn't you agree, if it's not coming from the top down, it's never going to change?
No, it's going to be only symbolic and not systemic, and you need a systemic change and drive forward. And it's what we call walk the talk, okay, in a very simple words.
And so when it comes to leaders, there's no doubt there has to be a level of consciousness there to even be aware that this is happening. But how many times do you see it's basically a personal challenge that they have to overcome, maybe like an insecurity or maybe like a fear, versus the organization structure?
I'll give you an example, Rachel. I was talking yesterday actually with a very dear friend of mine. The company he's, which is a very big American company, they go into a merge with another one, so they become much bigger, and they have to triple revenue. Also, the number of people they're going to be working for this company. And I told him, "Do you have a team to support you into that?" He said, "No." And I said, "How can you go forward and doing what you were doing in the same way for a triple size of a company?" And he said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Of course, because you need to be a different leader And you need to create a team around you that can see the same way forward and the same vision. So it's not about changing the little component of your character. It's about completely enhancing and creating something better of what you are. And this is where you address the insecurity and you make a more confident leader that can be a real life model for the rest of the people working around you. So, and that's the reality that hits you in the face.
Yeah, well, no doubt. I mean, it sounds like a bunch of people need that reality, but I want to explore a little bit. The listeners that are listening today may not know the experience you've had, and you've had an extensive experience in big corporates, enterprise level businesses, to see where leadership has gone wrong. And I'm assuming that would probably be part of the journey of where your knowledge and expertise comes from, so you can make sure that people are not running into those same problems. Are there anything that you can share around that space?
I mean, I have worked with companies which have been very, established companies, and and always global ones, always tech enabled or tech driven. And I have worked with companies where they start from almost scratch and they grew to be huge stakeholders in the world. There is a common thread around this. The moment you start something, it's a business, it's a new team, there's excitement, everything works perfectly because you're actually trying to shape and form the team. The moment you start having challenges, higher competition, you start having a storm phase, which you try to see yourself how you need to be established. In this case, through all my 30 years of experience, the main thing to do is that sit down, simplify the problem, and find out how to solve this with the existing resources you have, but then think, I don't like the expression, but it's the one that we use, out of your comfort zone to bring the ones you need to bring in and maybe shake the waters. In this case, and this is what I have managed to do, is that every time I was in such a situation, I was trying to challenge the situation I was in order to go a step forward, even if it was not the right challenge, but it made people think differently. So that's what I've gotten as an experience. And now every time I go into a new situation, this is the first thing I do. Listen and then try to challenge.
Well, I think that's where consultancy, and that's where the added value of bringing in the third parties to come into any organization to have a different perspective and kind of look at it. And that's why I go back into your experience. And when we're talking about Meta, I mean, Sony, you got some big names behind your belt, so you could really bring to the table kind of structures that are already established, and then building and growing and creating a new establishment and what needs to happen as far as a foundation in order to be most successful.
And Rachel, I have worked for different cultures as well. I have worked for Japanese leadership, American, South African, Greek. And you see the same component exist around. What is changing is how you manage that, how you make the other people come to you and understand the language, have a common way of communicating before you reach down to the point of execution. It's a common thread. It's a common thread.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's something that's very comforting about that no matter where you're from, you're dealing with the same issues, right? Across the globe. And, and I love that, do you see like a culture that is basically advancing this progression further or faster than any other culture from you so far?
I wouldn't say it's the culture. I think I would say it's the context. And I take as an example the region we are. You have people from all around the world. It's not about where you're coming from. It's about what is your intention, what is your vision, who you're working with, and how you own the narrative. So for me, if I had to simplify that in three words, three messages, is that you need to own the narrative and build a visible influence. So people can understand what you're talking about and you follow on that. The second thing I would say is that how you build strategic alliances, because you can't do things on your own. And you need to think that what we have around us, the ecosystem, can be very, very compatible with you and they can actually get you up front. And the third thing, which sometimes we forget when things are going well or somehow well, is challenge the system inside out and outside in. And for me, if you do these three things, you always have a plan on how to make things work for you.
I love it. I'm writing it down because I'm like, these are some good tips. These are some good tips. I hope you at home are listening, writing it down, jumping in the conversation. Eleni's one of the top 100 female leaders of Asia right here, right now. And she's going to help you with any questions that you have around this space. And clearly we run out of time quick, but I want to make sure that we get to a number of points that would be really interesting to hear. So if you had a magic 8-ball and you can see the future of work, where do you see this, or where do you hope it will be one day?
The future of work, I bring one element into that. Intention and purpose. So those two, if you don't have them, no matter which future you're going to be living in, it's going to be something you do as a burden and not as something that can actually contribute. So intention and purpose, I will say.
Intention and purpose. I mean, that's any business value proposition, a mission statement right there. I mean, that's the core of even having a business. So as long as you're staying aligned to that for true, I think you should be in the right direction. But there's no doubt that I keep on going back to this fear of the AI. It's so exciting, yet it's kind of like, how do you I don't know how many new AI tools there are every single day. I'm even overwhelmed with it because it's just too much. I don't know what to use first. Is it Gemini? Is it ChatGPT? Is it my Canva? Is it everyone's telling me they can think for me? It's about how do you align it with what you're doing effectively, especially being aligned with leaders that can help you do that effectively. Right?
Yes. And Rachel, we're all changing dramatically. We don't understand that. If we had a picture of us a year ago and what we're now, we're so different than when we were on what we were before. And the reason is changes are happening drastically on us and around us, and we don't get it. We don't identify that. But in 5 years from now, we're going to be completely different individuals, much stronger, much smarter, and I hope much happier.
Yeah, me too. You and me both, right? So there's no doubt. Well, as we transition from this fantastic conversation, I hope that everyone's gotten a really good piece of advice, something to think about, some way to challenge their own day-to-day, because that's about really putting yourself in a different way of thinking and looking at what you're doing differently. And I think that, Eleni, is what you're doing really well. So I applaud you in everything you're doing. Let's give our audience 3 top tips that they should be aware of, or at least prioritize in 2025 to keep the conversation, that combination of that equality across the business and the brand to drive successful leaders and businesses forward in the coming year. What do you got?
I have what I call the 4 C's, which the first one is being curious of what's happening around. Okay. Don't take what you have for granted. The second thing is have the courage to follow on that, on your curiosity. Don't step back. Don't be intimidated. The third one is that if you don't, let's just say you have the first 2, commitment, go into that, make the effort, try, fail, try again. And the last one is communicate, because sometimes we think the more we keep things to ourselves, the better it is, but it's not. We live in a world of cross-pollination of ideas and things we do. The more we do that, the better it is. So sorry, it's 3 + 1, so it's 4 C's for me.
I'll take it. You ended with my favorite one, communication, which I think is the biggest challenge, happening today. I don't know if you saw recently, one of the universities in the UK is now offering classes for how to pick up the phone and how to communicate, because Gen Z is having so much anxiety about this form of communication. But so I'm passionate about this. I love that other people are speaking about this. Again, I can't thank you enough for sharing your expertise with me and my audience today. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for helping people make great business relationships, one connection at a time, internally, externally, and really affecting the globe. Eleni, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And that's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope it's a nice plug of inspiration to keep you driving forward. And make sure, if you're a leader, that you are looking at your people and trying to figure out how to make it work with technology so you guys can do the dance together. And if you need some help, reach out to my friend Eleni, because she is clearly full of insight, information, and value that can help your business. So I wish you a wonderful, fabulous business day, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.